Hi guys, David Fader here. I get asked all the time by students and just people at shows what I have on my pedal board. And lately I don't have much on my pedal board. I have a reverb unit, a Big Sky, I have a looper, mostly for doing sound checks, and I have my wireless just because I like to walk around while I'm playing. But I have this preamp, this Fishman Pro EQ. I've had it for about a year on the pedal board, and I just wanted to show it to you and how it works. I've been a big fan of Fishman products for a long time. The stuff they make is really useful. It actually addresses the problems that working musicians have. There's not a lot of fluff. And the products are, by and large, built really well. This one especially, it's got a aluminum case. It feels like a tank, and it's not that expensive, and they say it's studio quality. I haven't used it for studio recording, but it's decent. It sounds great. I have a rack of gear behind me that I normally use, but I would use it. But let me just briefly go through this thing and show you. So my requirements for a preamp are a little bit different than my steel string player friends. A lot of my nylon string guitars have a piezo undersaddle and a microphone like this one. This is my Camps guitar. It's a very well balanced guitar, but it still has the same problems that all nylon string guitars have, especially when you're on large stages dealing with sound guys, trying to get your own monitor sound, and that's what this is really good for. If it goes out to the house, I usually trust the guy to put what he wants in the house, and I don't pay a lot of attention to that. But I use this to get my monitor sound, so it's exactly what I want. I can adjust the notch filters and the tone and the compression and all that stuff, and I can send a completely dry signal out to the house. Although I don't usually send a dry signal out because I like to have a tiny bit of compression. But anyway, let's go through this thing. And I'll do another video about compressors and how I use them and all kinds of other stuff. But for now, I just want, for my nylon string guitar player friends who play fingerstyle, flamenco, classical, I just wanted to show you this thing, which is a pretty economical solution to very common problems, especially on large stages. So first of all, on the side here, there's a little bit of a there's an adjustment for there's two controls here. One of them on the side will control your input trim. So and I can talk about for hours on ways to control that and what sounds better. This is a Class A amp. You don't want to overdrive it in the input because it'll start to sound a little grainy. You don't want that. Anyway. On the side, there's also an adjustment for the boost. This little switch here, you see the blue light goes on. You can have different amounts of boost. So if you want to play lead or you want something a little brighter, maybe over a loop or with your band, you can. This is a little louder, right? Okay. So here you have. The first thing in line button here you have is this compressor. It's a one knob compressor. It feels a little bit like an optical compressor. I don't think it is. I'm not positive, but it works really well for one knob compressor. It just gives me a little bit of it brings up the inside voices, especially when I'm doing percussion. So here's with no compression. And here's a little bit of compression. I don't know if you can hear that, but it brings in a little bit of the mid notes. I'll do a little fingerstyle stuff here too. Here you go. Now just a teeny bit of compression. I put a little bit more than I normally use just so you can hear it. See, you can see when the green light goes on, that's when it hits the threshold. Brings it down a little bit without the compressor on. get a little more of the high volume stuff coming through. But what I use compressors for is to just bring up the detail. You don't want to turn it up too much so that you start to have to play harder to get your full dynamic range, because, you know, that sucks. But anyway, it's a pretty transparent compressor as far as one knob compressors go. Not bad. And then you have a brilliance control, basically for controlling the very high end in the air, maybe some finger noise if you have that. Works really well. Listen. Right? Gets rid of a little bit of that. Then you have your treble. Obviously, works like a treble control. Right? Mid-range is sweepable, which is nice. So I just turn the mid up so you can hear the sweep. Right? And that, I find that generally I don't have to do much to the mid-range of any of my nylon string guitars, except if I'm having really weird feedback problems. Sometimes I can zero in on one of those frequencies and take it out a little bit. But that's what this notch control is. This notch control here has a predetermined width, and you can sweep it through frequencies and it'll notch them out. This is the switch that turns it on. I sometimes use it if it's a difficult situation, if the monitors are in horrible places or the volume's really loud, but usually you can solve most of those problems with this switch, which is the phase inverse switch. And a lot of guitars don't have a invert phase switch, but that if you have extreme feedback problems, that will invert the signal and very often knock the problem out. The problem with a phase switch is sometimes it will actually deteriorate your sound if you like the way, you know, the amp's going in one direction just for stage resonance. I mean, you want a little bit of it for sustain, etc. And also, since this XLR out, I have one going to my amp, the side here. You can let me move the camera a little bit, so you can see on the side. This is my 1/4 inch out, and it's always full-time active. All the controls on here, but this XLR on the other side, that there's a switch on the back that you can turn off the processing, and you have to be careful because if you hit the phase switch, it can be phased opposite of the XLR, and you don't necessarily want to send two different phased signals out to the board. If you're doing it that way, you know, you'd have to have a sharp sound guy to realize that that's going on and not cancel out things that you want to happen. We can have a discussion on phasing at some point. Then you have your bass control, just like a bass control. Gives you a little bit of bottom end, right? You also have this here is your low cut. And if you don't know what a low cut is for, generally on mixing boards is to get rid of rumble. But there's also a lot of subsonic frequencies in guitars, in almost any instrument, that will take up a lot of electrical energy in your amp and keep your speakers pushed forward or back, and it will smear the definition of your sound. So basically, you wanna move this control to the point where it doesn't affect the sound, but it takes out the stuff that you don't hear. And then this is your final volume control. There's a built-in tuner. When you hit the tuner, it mutes the guitar, and the tuner's not bad. These are new strings; they're already going out of tune. It's an LED style tuner. I never use it, but I would if I didn't have, you know, two other tuners available to me. But see, it works fine. And there's a couple different styles, and I believe you can program it so that this doesn't mute and the tuner's on all the time. There's an effects loop on the side where you can hit your effects and put them in, you know. Have some effects. Let's see. Whoops, something's going on. What's going on here? I think that's my wireless. Yeah, it's just a bad wire, but I've been throwing this pedal board around a lot lately. And so you can use the effects loop. So by and large, this box is one of the best. Now, Fishman's made a few other ones. There's one similar to this that you can wear on your belt. There's the old gray ones. I forget what they're called. But there's the old gray ones that have the graphic, the sliders on them, and those worked really well. I had one on those on my pedal board for a long time. My pedal board's very small now, but this thing, even though it's kind of a big footprint, it is really handy. And if I was going to only travel with one thing, I used to use an LR bags, and I still bring that sometimes, the Paradi. But this and a small effects unit sometimes is the only thing that I'll travel with. I'll throw it in my guitar case, and it works on a 9-volt, power supply. I have a little Strymon under here that I use with it. I haven't tried the small one yet, but this one rocks. It's really good. If you play gut string guitar, it's one of the lesser priced alternatives. If you get rained on, it's a couple $100 you can replace it, maybe $300, but it's not, it's not something that's going to cost you $1,000 to replace. And I'll show you some of the other preamps that I've used on the road, and I'll review some of the other equipment that I use regularly as I get time to do it. So I'll put a link in the bottom of this blog so you can see where to buy these things. I really, I prefer buying things from a reputable dealer that will replace them for you. Maybe you can find that on Amazon. Sweetwater.com is one of my preferred vendors, but buy it where you want. I think I covered everything. The compressor is a 2.5 to 1. It's got a 10 millisecond attack and 1,000 or 100 millisecond release, which is, close to what I would set it at. I might open this up sometime and change that. I don't know if there's controls in it, but, I'm a nerd. I can just change it. But right now, for the guitar that I'm using, I can get whatever sound I want pretty much from that, whether the guitar has a built-in preamp or not. And I have tons of compressors with a million knobs. And when I'm on stage, though, especially at a festival or something, I just want to be able to go blip and get my sound dialed in within a couple of seconds. If I can't do that, it's very frustrating. So anyway, let me know what you think. If you have your favorite preamp, let me know. I'm really interested to see. I know there's a lot of guitar players that read my blogs and follow me on Facebook. So yeah, let me know. Here's the setup I normally do. Here's a little tune in a slightly out of tune guitar. Those little notes came out at the end because of the compressor, not because of my playing. Take care, guys.